They thought Earth was weak, insignificant, forgotten. But when the stars turned cold, humanity reminded them who we really are. He was a slave, until the Earth tattoo glowed. The air burned in Kyle's lungs. Sulfur clung to everything, a stinging fog that never lifted in the pits of Turok 9. Beneath the jagged rocks and crumbling steel towers, slaves moved like shadows, silent, gray, and forgotten. Kyle was one of them. He had no name, only a number scorched into a rusted iron tag chained to his neck. Unit 7173. Every morning, he woke to the sirens, their shrieks slicing the dark like knives. Then came the digging. Always digging. Through ash, through soot, through veins of black stone the Zarkith valued more than life. His hands bled, his back cracked beneath the weight of their expectations. But he never cried. Crying got you taken. On his wrist was a faded tattoo, Earth's old crest. No one cared. The Zarkith branded every Terran slave with it, not as pride, but as proof of ownership. To Kyle it meant nothing. Earth was just a myth told in whispers between beatings, a place that once was, before it fell to ash. And so he shoveled, day after day, not dreaming, not questioning, not living, just surviving. Kyle had heard the stories. The old ones spoke of Earth before the fall, a world of color, of sky, of freedom. But the Zarkith ended that. Their ships came like shadows across the stars, black and endless, blotting out suns. Earth's army stood, but they were no match. The Dominion's tech was older than time and crueler than fire. They didn't just conquer Earth, they shattered it. Some humans escaped, most didn't. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy, stripped of rights, culture, and names. The Dominion made sure of it. They turned memory into blasphemy and hope into chains. Kyle was born into that silence, into the world after the fall. He was raised on lies and fed obedience. He never saw the sun, only the glowing red veins of the Zarkith mines and the distant rumble of machines deeper than anyone dared go. But something inside him, a whisper, a warmth, was starting to stir. It began in the third shaft, a place avoided by most, too deep, too quiet. While others scraped stone for minerals, Kyle paused. The air felt different, heavy with silence. Then he heard it, a whisper, faint, ancient. Kyle. He dropped his pickaxe. No one had ever called him that. No one could. His tag had no letters, just numbers. But the voice in the stone said it again, clearer this time. Kyle. He spun. No one was there. Just the dark. Just the hum of drills far above. And yet, the voice lingered, like breath against his ear. It didn't scare him. It felt familiar, like something lost. Every day he returned to that shaft. The deeper he went, the louder it became. Not words exactly, but feelings, images, visions of skies and oceans, of towers that sang instead of screamed. And always that same voice, calling him to remember something he never knew. That night, Kyle dreamed again. Not of mines, not of chains, but of a hill, green and alive. He stood barefoot, laughing, as wind brushed against his face. Above him, the sky stretched forever, blue and endless. He awoke with tears streaking down his face. He didn't know why. "It's a trick," he muttered, "just my mind breaking." But the dreams came every night. He could smell the grass, hear the sound of birds, a sound no one had heard on Turok 9. It wasn't madness. It was memory, or something deeper. Each morning he carried those images with him into the dark, holding them like a secret flame. The others noticed the change. Kyle moved differently. He hummed quietly to himself. He smiled, and that terrified them. Jarn, a grizzled elder, grabbed him one day. "Stop," You keep dreaming they'll hear, and if they hear, they'll take you. But I haven't done anything, Kyle whispered. Hope is doing something. Hope gets you killed. Kyle wanted to argue, but he understood. On Turok 9, hope was dangerous. It made people speak. It made them run. It made them fight. And then they vanished. So Kyle said nothing more. He returned to silence. But inside, that secret flame burned hotter. The voice in the stone grew louder. He couldn't ignore it anymore, even if it meant being alone. It happened on the darkest shift. The lights had failed. The air was thick. Kyle was deep in the third shaft, hands scraping stone. The voice came again, clearer than ever. Awaken. He froze. The rock before him shimmered faintly, as if something ancient stirred beneath it. And then his wrist burned. He looked down. The earth tattoo, the mark he had ignored his whole life. It was glowing. Not brightly, just a flicker, a pulse, like a heartbeat. Kyle staggered back. What is this? The light faded, but the warmth remained. For the first time, he wasn't just Unit 7173. He was Kyle. He was from Earth. And something was waking up inside him. Something the Zarkith had tried to bury. Something they would soon regret. The chains clanked louder than they should have. Kale, drenched in grime and sweat, marched shoulder to shoulder with other slaves toward the transfer platform, where Dominion transports loomed like vultures waiting for carry-on. The sulfur-thick air burned every breath. They didn't even have names, just numbers etched into metal tags bolted to their collars. When Slave 432 stumbled, body limp from hunger and disease, the overseer raised his shock baton without hesitation. Kale moved before he thought. He caught 432 just as he fell, shielding him with his own body. Back in line, barked the overseer. Kale didn't move. A beat, a moment of silence that wasn't silent at all. Then the overseer struck. Kale fell twitching as electricity flooded his spine. The others kept marching. No one looked back. Later, they strapped him into the neural chair, where pain wasn't just physical, it was electric memory forced into his brain. False memories, rewriting what it meant to be human. But as the pain surged, something cracked inside. Something ancient, something buried. A scream erupted, not from its throat, but from his soul. And the overseers froze. Kale's body convulsed in the chair, eyes rolled back. Screams faded into choking silence. Then it happened. The forgotten earth tattoo on his shoulder, once dismissed as decorative or cultural, began to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. Pulsing like a heartbeat. Not just light, rhythm, code. Overseers recoiled. They weren't trained for this. Humans were supposed to break, not burn. He's activating something, one whispered. Kale's skin shimmered. The glow spread through the veins on his arm like molten fire. The neural implant shorted out. Sparks danced across the chair. One overseer screamed as his console exploded in his face. The others ran. Kale didn't understand it. He only knew one thing. Something inside him had changed. Miles beneath the surface of Turok 9, in tunnels older than memory, an artifact stirred. Buried beneath collapsed mines and layers of alien sediment, a Terran relay core, long thought inert, flared to life. It had waited for a signal, waited for a match. Kale's glow triggered it. Its AI core, primitive by Dominion standards, activated a single task: transmit. A scream of light, a burst of code in ancient Earth signal, a wave of energy pushed upward like a geyser through the rock. Across 1,000 Dominion networks, something pinged. And somewhere, far across the stars, in a derelict Earth listening post buried in asteroid field S19, a single red light blinked. Connection. After centuries of silence, Earth had made contact, and it began listening again.
Turok 9 went dark. Power grids collapsed. Drones crashed midair. Overseer implants screamed static. For 5 full minutes, the planet's system ceased to function. A blackout. A silence. And in that silence, Kale moved. The chair released him. Sparks had melted its bindings. No one stopped him because no one could see. Kale ran. Through corridors choked with smoke, across factory bridges now frozen in place. Panic spread like fire among guards and slaves alike. He ducked under a damaged turbine, limbs trembling, pain still clawing his brain. Something guided him, something ancient and unspoken. He wasn't moving blindly. He was following a pulse, downward, into the mines, into the dark. He collapsed near a half-buried shaft, lungs burning. A pair of hands pulled him out. An old woman, skin like cracked clay, eyes bright with something more than madness. "You're the signal," she whispered. Kale flinched. "What?" "The mark, the glow. I seen it before, in the war, in the final days before Earth fell. I thought it was just a brand." She shook her head. "It's not a brand, it's a beacon, and they'll kill you for it." She helped him hide deeper in the tunnels. "My name's Mara," she said. "They used to call me Unbroken before they crushed Earth." He wanted to believe she was crazy, but something in her voice made it impossible to doubt. When systems came back online, chaos followed. Overseer corpses, destroyed control rooms, missing sleeves, and a single surveillance clip. Kale, glowing. Dominion Command AI flagged it instantly. Echo-class human signature detected. Threat level, extinction event, pending confirmation. Turok 9 locked down, Dominion fleet rerouted, war algorithms activated contingency protocols. The Overseers had never heard the phrase Echo-class before, but the AI knew. Old files, old wars. It had happened once before, and the memory nearly wiped them all out. A human awakened. The signal had returned. And now, so had fear. Kale couldn't sleep, not because of pain, but because of knowing. Everything had changed. Mara explained what little she knew. Earth had encoded messages in certain humans, buried signals, failsafes, DNA that could talk to ancient tech. He hadn't chosen this. He hadn't earned it. But now they were hunting him like a monster. "I'm not a warrior," he told her. "Neither were the first," she replied. "They became warriors because they had to." Kale stared into the darkness. He was just a boy with a glowing tattoo. But the galaxy had already declared war. And now, he was running. Not to escape, but to survive long enough to find out what Earth had hidden inside him. The ruins of old Turok 9 whispered with the ghosts of lost wars. Beneath shattered skyscrapers and cracked domes, Kale crouched in the underground tunnels with Mara and a few surviving humans. Ash clung to the walls like forgotten memories. The air was thick with decay and silence ruled, except for the occasional groan of metal shifting in the dying wind above. Kale pressed his hand to the cold wall, its surface scorched from ancient energy blasts. "This place used to breathe," Mara said, voice soft like a memory. "Before they came. Before we were chained." Turok 9 wasn't just dead. It was eaten from the inside out. The Zarkith Empire had strip-mined its soul, turned its cities into feeding pits. But now, these very bones offered shelter. The Zarkith assumed no one could survive here. Kale wiped grime from his face, his tattoo glowing faintly beneath the dirt. Every night it pulsed brighter. Every night it called. He didn't know why. But Mara did. Under the flicker of salvaged lanterns, Mara unrolled an ancient datasheet. The glyphs were Terran, real Earth script. Kale stared, heart thudding. "You're not just lucky," she whispered. "You're not even just human anymore. You're a genetic echo." He blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Mara tapped the datasheet. When Earth fell, they knew extinction was coming. So they created signals, living ones, genetic echoes, hidden in the blood of a few survivors, sleeping until a trigger came. Kale stood frozen. The tattoo. It's not ink. It's your signal waking up. Your blood is calling to what's left of Earth. Machines, AI cores, things older than memory. You're a living key. A chill ran through him. He'd always thought he was nothing more than a slave with a strange birthmark. Now he realized he was something the Zarketh would destroy at any cost. Why me? Because Earth doesn't send soldiers anymore. It sends echoes. When one wakes, others follow. Kale sat alone near a broken ventilation shaft. The glow from his shoulder cast light on the wall. He traced it with his fingers. Circles, dots, arcs that shifted with his pulse. He remembered pain. The first time it glowed, it burned like fire. He thought it was punishment. Now he knew better. It was connection. Old machines in the depths of Turok 9 had started humming again. Doors once sealed opened with a wave of his hand. Lights came on when he walked by. Automated drones flickered to life and stood still, as if waiting for command. Mara explained, the tattoo was not decoration. It's an interface. Earth's lost systems are listening, and you're the voice. Kale closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. Not just by Mara or the rebels, but by something ancient, something human. He wasn't alone. He was part of a legacy buried beneath ash and silence. The camp's air grew colder with distrust. Some rebels knelt before Kale, calling him their key to salvation. Others whispered of danger, of being hunted because of him. Fights broke out. Old friends turned cold. Weapons were drawn over decisions. "He's a tool," one rebel shouted. "We use him to strike the Empire now." "No," another argued. "He's a boy. He's untrained. If we rush, he dies and we all die." Mara slammed her staff to the ground. "He's not your puppet, and he's not your shield. He's your only hope." But unity cracked. The rebels began to split into factions. Some left to form their own splinter cells. Some stayed, wary and watching. And Kale? He stood in the middle of it all, chosen by something older than war, but still just a scared young man. He didn't ask for power, but it was his now.
Kale trained until his hands bled. Under the weak light of dying red stars, he ran simulations from old Earth systems. Drones taught him tactics, survival, and martial skill. But real pain came from within. Doubt, guilt, the fear of failing everyone. Each morning, he rose before the others. Each night, he collapsed alone. "You have to break to rebuild," Mara told him. And break he did. Through it all, he unlocked things inside himself. Faster reflexes, neural reflex boosts, memory flashes, not his own, but from the genetic archive embedded in him. He could fight like soldiers long dead, speak languages Earth had lost. He began to believe. A Zarketh warship cut through space like a blade. Inside, Inquisitor Ress knelt in silence. Half machine, half man, he had hunted humans since the Earth Wars. His face was carved from discipline, his eyes replaced with sensor lenses that glowed a cold blue. A comm beacon blinked. Genetic echo confirmed on Turok 9. Subject, Kale. Ress didn't smile, he never did. But inside, something stirred. Hate. He remembered Earth's final resistance, remembered the voice of Kale's ancestor, who once scarred him in battle. This wasn't just a mission. It was revenge.
Prepare drop pods. Burn the sky. His cruiser descended on Turok 9 like judgment. Rebels scattered. The air shimmered with fire. And Ress, he walked calmly through the smoke, whispering one word. Echo. Ress captured a rebel outpost. Prisoners screamed. Kale watched from the shadows, jaw clenched, heart hammering. The other rebels wanted to run. Even Mara wavered. But Kale didn't move. He stepped into the open. Ress turned, sensor eyes locking on. So, you're the spark. Kale raised his hand. The tattoo burned bright. The ground shook. Dormant machines rose from the rubble. Earth's guardians. Old defense drones awakened by Kale's signal. They attacked. Ress fought like a storm, cutting through drones, ignoring pain. But Kale didn't stop. For the first time, he struck back, not just with tech, but with fire in his heart. When it was over, Ress was gone, wounded, furious, and the galaxy had changed. Zarketh had underestimated humanity. Now they knew the truth. The fire had returned, and it began with one strike.
The tunnel stank of rust and regret. Ancient steel walls groaned as Kel led his rebel cell deeper into the forgotten mining facility buried beneath Byrex 7's ash-covered crust. The air grew colder with each step, thick with dust and history. Their boots crunched over slag and broken rails, remnants of Terran engineering lost to time and conquest. "Are you sure this is it?" Mara asked, her voice barely a whisper in the stale air. Kel nodded. His hand brushed the faded tattoo on his wrist, an old Terran symbol passed down in secret. It tingled. The team halted before a bulkhead sealed with time-worn Earth script. Kel stepped forward. Lights embedded in the floor flickered weakly, then flared to life. "It's not just steel," whispered Ryan, scanning the door. "Something inside, it's moving." The wall hummed like it remembered. Kel reached out. His fingers met cold alloy, and for a heartbeat, the entire facility seemed to exhale. Deep below, something woke. The sky tore open with soundless fury. Zarketh warships breached atmosphere, their black holes shimmering like oil over glass. From them, Ress descended, her armor matte obsidian, her eyes a storm. Behind her, elite strike units landed with precision born of fear and programming. The caverns trembled as entry points sealed shut. "We're sealed in," Mara gasped, checking her scanner. Kale's jaw clenched. They knew, they're hunting the vault. Ress advanced through the echoing corridors like a reaper among bones. Her voice cracked across frequencies. "Surrender the artifact, and your deaths will be painless." Silence answered. Then a flicker. Kale's tattoo blazed like a sun. Kale's hand pressed against the vault's surface. His tattoo burned hotter, flaring into a radiant sigil. A pulse shot outward, blinding, raw. The cavern bathed in white. Alien sensors across the battlefield shorted. Ress staggered, shielding her eyes. Her soldiers dropped their visors, momentarily blind. The vault responded with a sound like thunder underwater. Gears unseen twisted. Dust fell from above, like snow. It opened. A voice echoed from the dark. The hologram flickered into existence, and worn but proud Earth officer, eyes burning with a mission long past. "If you are hearing this, then Earth has fallen. But you are not forgotten." Kel and the rebels stood frozen. The officer's voice cracked with emotion, but his gaze was steady. "You are the flame, the last spark. Inside this vault lies not only weapons, but memory, hope, legacy." Tears welled in Mara's eyes. Ryan clenched his fists. A low hum grew around them, as if the vault itself grieved and remembered. A panel slid open. Kale hesitated, then placed his hand into the neural interface. Pain, then clarity. The download struck like lightning, streaming data, tactics, survival protocols, resistance techniques from every Terran battlefield. Names, faces, triumphs, losses, all became part of him. Kale staggered back, his breath heaved. I see everything." Mara caught him. "What did they give you?"
He looked up, voice steady. Earth. They gave me Earth. Inside the vault, machinery stirred. A command module hissed open, revealing a black suit lined with adaptive fibers. It pulsed with energy, matching Kale's heartbeat. He stepped into it. The suit sealed itself, syncing to his neural network. Data flowed. The armor adapted, analyzing threats, mapping terrain, responding to intent before thought formed. Kale moved, faster, smoother, smarter. This isn't just armor, he muttered. It's strategy wrapped in steel. Mara's eyes widened. Then let's make them regret coming here. The battle erupted. Zarkef warriors advanced in formation. Kale dismantled them with surgical precision. His armor read their moves before they acted. Every step was a counter, every motion a trap. He moved like vengeance incarnate. One by one, the attackers fell, not dead, but disabled. Kale chose to wound, to leave witnesses. Then came Ress. She lunged. Their blades clashed. Sparks danced as warborn fury met Terran resolve. She struck with rage. He answered with purpose. Finally, her blade shattered. Kale stood over her, breath calm. I chose my ghosts, and I choose not to kill you. He turned. The dust settled. The rebels gathered. The vault doors stood open, humming in resonance with something ancient and proud. Kale stepped forward, and the ground itself seemed to remember. Mara whispered, almost afraid, Earth. Someone repeated it, then another, Earth. Voices rose, first soft, then louder, like thunder. Earth, Earth, Earth. The name filled the cavern, echoing through steel and soul. And far above, the sky no longer looked so dark.
A panel slid open. Kale hesitated, then placed his hand into the neural interface. Pain. Then, clarity. The download struck like lightning, streaming data, tactics, survival protocols, resistance techniques from every Terran battlefield. Names, faces, triumphs, losses, all became part of him. Kale staggered back, his breath heaved. I see everything. Mara caught him. What did they give you? He looked up, voice steady. Earth. They gave me Earth. Inside the vault, machinery stirred. A command module hissed open, revealing a black suit lined with adaptive fibers. It pulsed with energy, matching Kale's heartbeat. He stepped into it. The suit sealed itself, syncing to his neural network. Data flowed, the armor adapted, analyzing threats, mapping terrain, responding to intent before thought formed. Kale moved, faster, smoother, smarter. This isn't just armor, it's strategy wrapped in steel. Mara's eyes widened. Then let's make them regret coming here. The battle erupted. Zarketh warriors advanced in formation. Kale dismantled them with surgical precision. His armor read their moves before they acted. Every step was a counter, every motion a trap. He moved like vengeance incarnate. One by one, the attackers fell, not dead, but disabled. Kale chose to wound, to leave witnesses. Then came Ress. She lunged, their blades clashed, sparks danced as warborn fury met Terran resolve. She struck with rage. He answered with purpose. Finally, her blade shattered. Kale stood over her, breath calm. You called me a slave. Ress spat blood. You are, to Earth's ghosts. Kale lowered his weapon. I choose my ghosts, and I choose not to kill you. He turned. The dust settled, the rebels gathered, the vault door stood open, humming in resonance with something ancient and proud. Kale stepped forward, and the ground itself seemed to remember.
Mara whispered, almost afraid. Earth. Someone repeated it. Then another. Earth. Voices rose, first soft, then louder, like thunder. Earth! 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 The name filled the cavern, echoing through steel and soul. And far above, the sky no longer looked so dark. The chamber was silent, dust hanging in the stale air like the breath of the dead. Kale stood before the broken console, wires sprouting from ancient panels like metal roots. His hand trembled as it hovered over the last switch. His tattoo, inherited from the rebels of Vault 17, pulsed with a warmth that wasn't his own. One breath, one hope. He pressed the switch. A low hum started, vibrating through the bones of the facility. The ancient Terran relay system coughed back to life. Lights blinked erratically, then stabilized. A deep, pulsing signal surged from the core, echoing across frequencies not used in centuries. It wasn't just a message, it was a call, a heartbeat. Somewhere beyond known space, the waves stretched outward. Through asteroid fields, abandoned colonies, and derelict satellites, the signal passed like a whisper in a hurricane. On forgotten worlds where Earth's descendants had long buried their identity, the signal found genetic keys, unlocking dormant nodes in their DNA. Children woke screaming from dreams they didn't understand. Old machines blinked alive in basements, and Kale, still standing in the Terran ruins, felt it all. He wasn't alone anymore. On a jungle-covered moon in Sector E9, a woman fell to her knees, staring at her glowing hand. Her village, isolated for centuries, watched as the old beacon in the cliffs lit up for the first time in generations. On a scorched mining asteroid, an old man wept as the tattoo on his forearm burned to life. He remembered now. His father had told him stories. He thought they were just myths. Across the galaxy, it happened again and again. Lights in caves, in blood, in the sky. Humanity, shattered by time and war, had left behind seeds in the stars, and the signal had watered them. Everywhere the Terran signal touched, the same phrase emerged, spoken, written, whispered. The first to answer. Kale's image, captured by relay echoes, appeared on walls, on datapads, in neural visions. He was not a savior, not a king, but he was the proof they were real. The old galactic maps began to shift. Inside the obsidian towers of Zarketh High Command, alarms screamed. The Grand Strategist clawed at her robe as Ressa's report played again. This time, it was not dismissed. This was prophecy fulfilled. Humans have not died. They have been reborn. Panic spread through the council chambers. Star routes, once stable under Zarketh rule, now blinked with interference. Old Terran frequencies, banned for centuries, crackled into life. Something ancient had been awakened. Zarketh scouts reported resistance stirring in systems thought dead. On Tehran 4, 3 ships refused to answer Zarketh command. On Vinyl's moon, the enslaved broke their chains. The galactic balance trembled. The humans weren't gone, they were rising. Kale stood on the surface of an ice world, surrounded by beings once enslaved, now free. Beside him, Mara addressed the crowd. Zynar, with broken tusks, Quarrend, who had no homeworld, even defected Zarketh soldiers who'd burned their insignias. This is not just for humans, Mara said. This is for every voice that was silenced. Kale stepped forward. We're not forming an empire. We're offering a choice. No master, no slave, just freedom. And they listened. Ships were pledged, codes exchanged, banners with no nation were stitched together. They had scars, but they shared something stronger than blood, loss, and the will to never kneel again. The first resistance fleet was born, not under one race, but many.
On the red sands of Kfar 12, Kale met with humans who still wore collars they chose not to remove. They didn't believe in unity, they remembered war, division. A leader stepped forward. You think you're our savior? Another warlord with a different flag? Kale didn't flinch.
I'm not your ruler. I'm the proof that we're still here. You don't have to follow, just don't forget who you are. Some walked away, some stayed. It was never going to be easy. On a forgotten moon where stars barely touched the sky, an alien child tugged at his father's hand. They watched the resistance fleet glide across the heavens like silver ghosts. "Father," the child asked, "what is Earth?" The father's eyes shimmered with memory. Earth was a place long ago, but it's not a place anymore. It's a spirit, a fire. It lives in them now. As the ships vanished into the void, the whisper of Earth traveled with them. Not as a nation, not as conquerors, but as something greater. A people who refuse to die. And somewhere, deep in space, Kale stared out at the stars. "We're not coming back," he said softly. "We never left." The bridge of the homebound shimmered with soft, shifting lights, part technology, part legacy. Kale stood at its center, arms behind him, eyes on the starlit expanse ahead. This was no ordinary ship. It wasn't just built, it was reclaimed from broken systems, stolen tech, and forgotten dreams. Around him, humans and alien allies worked in seamless rhythm. Scars of war marked their skin, their eyes, but not their purpose. They were rebuilding not just a vessel, but identity. "Status?" Kale asked, voice low but steady. A tall insectoid alien with luminous eyes tapped on a crystallized console. "All systems aligned, Captain. No external threats." Mara approached from the side, her gaze soft but searching. "Did you ever think we'd make it this far?" Kale didn't answer right away. He looked out again, where the stars whispered stories of old empires and forgotten homelands. "No," he said, "but we didn't get here because we believed. We got here because we refused to give up." Behind them, the ship's lights pulsed like a heartbeat, steady, alive. This wasn't just survival, it was resurrection. Across the scattered worlds of the galaxy, a new symbol shimmered, etched into armor, stitched into banners, drawn in ash across rebel camps. The ancient sigil of Earth, once a mark of conquest or mourning, now meant something else. Not dominance, not revenge, hope. It flew over deserts, underwater cities, asteroid colonies, all places where the forgotten had begun to rise. It wasn't just a Terran symbol anymore. It belonged to anyone who had suffered, resisted, and dared to believe in a tomorrow. Kale stood before a gathering of species once enslaved by the Zarketh. His voice carried across the silence. "This banner doesn't bind you. It frees you. We don't ask for loyalty. We offer choice. Join us, not because of history, but because of what comes next." They listened, and many stepped forward, not to kneel, but to stand. The youngest aboard the homebound often gathered near Kale during quiet shifts. They were curious, fearless in their questions. One child, barely shoulder high, pointed at the markings that snaked down Kale's arm. "What does that mean?" Kale glanced down at the ink, faded, burned in places, but still clear. Lines, curves, symbols from a world that no longer existed. He smiled. "It doesn't mean I'm special. It means we remembered." The child tilted her head. "Remembered what?" Kale knelt so they were eye to eye. "Who we were, who we can be again." He didn't explain the whole truth, that the ink had once been dormant tech awakened by a buried Terran signal, that it had marked him as one of the first to answer Earth's call. No. For them, it was enough to know that memory mattered, and that remembering was power. In the council chamber, a hologram of Earth spun slowly above a circular dais. Cracks, split continents, oceans were gone, cities turned to scars. It looked haunted. "Was that Earth?" asked the feathered envoy from Relentless Prime. Kale stepped forward. "Yes, what's left of it. But your people spread far beyond. You survived." Kale nodded. "Earth died, but its promise didn't. We carry it with us, in how we speak, how we fight, how we choose." The envoy stared up at the image, eyes glistening. then Earth is not gone, not truly. In a way, Earth had become something more than stone and sky. It had become myth, memory, a force that moved the broken to rise. Kale sometimes stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars pass like old songs. He thought of forests he'd never walked, rivers he'd never touched. Earth was gone before he was born. And yet, he missed it. Viscerally. Mara joined him. "You still see it, don't you?" He nodded. "Every time I close my eyes." She leaned beside him. "You think we'll ever build something like it again?" Kale smiled faintly. "No. And that's okay. Earth wasn't special because of its stir or sky. It was special because of what it stood for." His voice dropped. "It reminded us to fight for dignity, for memory. That's what matters now." A final broadcast crackled across the galaxy. No logo, no anthem. Just Kale's voice. "They took everything from us. Our homes, our families, our world. They burned it all." Silence. But Earth wasn't the place. It was a promise we never broke. He paused, let the truth hang heavy. That promise lives in us. Every breath we take, every act of defiance, every memory we carry. We are Earth now. The screen faded to black, and across 1,000 systems, people lifted their eyes to the stars, with hope, not in the planet, but in each other.